All right, this is lesson 2, and it's talking about experimental and theoretical probability. I would turn to page 724 in your workbook, and then you could go ahead and solve this with me. It says a coin is tossed 50 times and it lands on heads 28 times. Find the experimental probability and the theoretical probability of the coin landing on heads. So I'm going to first start with talking about theoretical. So again, theoretical is what really should happen. Everything we did in the first lesson was theoretical. So I'm going to start with doing what we know best. So we know theoretical, and we abbreviate TH, probability of the coin landing on heads. So I always write in here what I want to have happen. Okay, so the theoretical probability of a coin landing on heads. So theoretical is just what we know about the coin. We know that there are two sides, and of those two sides, one side has a heads on it. So that's theoretical. If I could, I would reduce it. The next one is experimental probability, and so that one's new. So the experimental probability of it landing on heads. This word experimental makes me think, okay, what did they experiment? How did they experiment? So they experimented with a coin 50 times. They flipped it 50 times, and it landed on heads 28 times. So for the experimental probability, I look back at the experiment, and they experimented or did 50 trials, sometimes they call it. And of those 50 trials, 28 of the times it landed on heads. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So this looks like I can reduce it. They're both even numbers. So let's start with a 2 and see if that's enough. So we're going to divide by 2. So 28 divided by 2 gives me 14. 50 divided by 2 gives me 25. And that's reduced all the way. So experimental probability is the experiment. Theoretical probability is just what we know, what we've been practicing. We know there's two sides on a coin and one is heads. It does ask us to compare the experimental and theoretical. I won't be having you do that in your assignment, but it's basically just saying, are they pretty close or are they not pretty close? These two, like what kind of maybe percentage are they? And they are pretty close. They're both around 50%. If they're not close, a lot of times people will say you should experiment it more. Like maybe we should have experimented 500 times, flip the coin instead of 50. Again, for your assignment, you're basically going to tell me the theoretical probability and the experimental probability without comparing the two.